Welcome back, everyone. So last week on the channel, I passed 12,000 subscribers. I just wanted to say thank you to all of you. It's been a long journey, and it's been awesome to see all the support. So in light of that, we're going to do a little Q&A. I don't think I did one of these for 10,000, even though I meant to, but I was like really busy and stressed out at that time, so it just never happened. But here we are. First question.
Dang, 12,000 questions answered.
12,000 questions is a lot of questions. We'd be here for a really long time.
What is your current go-to deck? What is a new card you're excited about? Are we going to see any more EDH Lounge?
So I have a couple current go-to decks just because I have a lot of decks. I'm really enjoying my Angel deck after the Kaldheim updates. Just, it added so much life to the deck. Being able to search out Angels with Search for Glory and Pyre of Heroes is just massive. So the deck has been a blast to play. In addition to some other changes, it's been playing really well. New card I'm excited about, I think Brilliant Restoration is a really interesting card because you're starting to get to this place where you have a critical mass of white spells that can pull all of your artifacts out of the graveyard, and that's something that I want to mess with at some point, so I think Brilliant Restoration. The EDH Lounge question. I get that question a lot. As far as the EDH Lounge, you're not the only one to ask about it.
When are we going to get another EDH Lounge with PK?
So usually about once a year, I'll message the guys and say something like, let's go on a reunion tour. The last time I did that, there was actually a bit of a response, but I think the issue is Jolt has been really busy with his kids, and I just don't know if he has the time to do it anymore. But I am planning to bring back the EDH with Friends show that I was doing for a little bit, but I am planning to bring back my EDH with Friends show that I used to do, which will have a lot of similarities to the EDH Lounge and probably some of the same people, but I do have a couple really exciting guests lined up. I don't want to spoil their names yet, but that'll be coming out probably sometime in April, so stay tuned for that.
How did you get into playing Commander? What's the story?
So this is going back 10 or 11 years. I was playing a lot of Standard and playing a lot of Draft. This was Scars of Mirrodin, original Innistrad, Dark Ascension Standard is when I was really going at it hard. And around that time is when the first set of Commander products came out, and Commander was really starting to gain a lot of steam, and the one guy who organized all the tournament stuff at the shop was starting to get into it, so he started doing Commander tournaments on Sundays. So I think it was the very first one that he did, and I'm like, I'll play some Commander, let's do it. And I built Shieldred because I'm like, this is everything I want to do on a Commander. And then the day before the tournament, I went to the shop and rifled through the dollar box and bought like probably $50 or $100 in $1 cards, which became my first mono black deck. That became my Shieldred deck. At that point, I was fortunate enough to have like a couple Soul Rings, Demonic Tutors, and a few things like that floating around, so had a couple cool pieces for the deck. But yeah, all because my shop wanted to host a Commander tournament. I think I finished second or third in that one, got a little bit of prize payout, which was cool.
Obviously everyone is excited that the Triome cycle is getting completed in New Capenna. What is your opinion on running them in 5-color decks?
Absolutely. I run a lot of the Shards of Alara Tri-lands just because I have a bunch of them, and they are very similar in what they do other than just they can't be fetched out the same way that the Triomes can, but the Triome's a little pricey. I wish they were a little cheaper, but totally legit for a 5-color deck, especially on a budget.
Are you having fun in Commander?
Next question. No, but seriously, I actually wasn't having a great time after GP Vegas because I realized I didn't pack any turn 6 decks when I went to Vegas, and I realized that the game has become a turn 6 game. And that's where a Casual Aurelia was born out of. You guys can check that video out. So I actually wasn't having a great time for a little while, but now I've kind of settled back in. And honestly, I think the big thing is if you're playing with a play group that you know, it's a lot more fun because there's some amount of tailoring your decks for the play group and not going too strong or too weak or any of that type of stuff. So having a much better time now that I'm playing with Patreons again.
EDH decks with stipulation or restriction as a video?
Yeah, we probably need to do a little more of this. I've been messing around with some of the we all play the same Commander videos, and they've done fine. It could be a little better, honestly, but the Tribal War stuff has done well in the past, so I might do more Tribal Wars when I find the time. But the main problem with the really heavy restrictions, like Pre-Modern or something like that, is that it just takes a long time to build your deck, and I just don't have that kind of time anymore. So really the issue is the time it takes to build the deck.
As a Boros aficionado, what is your favorite Sultai strategy and Sultai Commander?
I don't know if I have a favorite Sultai Commander or Sultai strategy. I can tell you that I've always wanted to build Boros +1/+1 counters. I saw someone play it on MTGO one day and I thought it was really cool. I've never gotten around to it, but maybe someday. The other one is Volrath. I would love to be able to revisit that commander. I think there's some really cool stuff to do with it. The showings that I've had for it on camera I don't think have been the best, and I just think it's a cool card that needs more love, so I'd probably go with those two.
What is your favorite green-black X commander?
Easily Teneb the Harvester. I've had Teneb the Harvester a couple times in paper over the years. I kind of wish I built a better version of it like 10 years ago when it was still a reasonable commander. Now it's like pretty underpowered for most things that are going on. You could make it work if you want to, but you know, it's not Carador or anything like that. Yeah, I've just always had a soft spot for Teneb, big reanimator dragon, pretty cool.
What do you plan to do to add to the channel to get another 12,000 subscribers?
So, this question shouldn't fill me with dread, but it does. I've spent probably the last year and a half thinking about what to do with the channel. The short version is that my content needs to evolve to get to a place where I'll be able to do that, because doing gameplay videos at the current pace, it will be a really long time before we hit 24,000. So it's really a question of evolving the content, and the key is I need to get to a place where I'm able to produce content that no one else is able to produce. So I have been looking into different ways to do that. A while back, Austin from Commander 99 and I were talking about doing a high-quality paper gameplay series. This was kind of during the pandemic, so not the best time to start a new Magic series. But also, we had some life changes. I got a job, and he left his job, so like our schedules kind of changed pretty dramatically. So we never got that one off the ground. But I do have another project that I'm working on right now that's going to be really cool. It's really difficult and it's really time consuming, so bear with me, but I'm very excited about it and I can't wait to have it done and share it with you guys. And hopefully that will be the jumpstart that I need to get the momentum going back in the right direction.
Does your community play Spell Table frequently?
Yes, and this is a perfect time to plug Patreon. I can easily say that this channel would have died a long time ago without support from Patreon, so Patreon support is really what keeps this thing going, given the large amount of time it takes to make videos. So yes, please be sure to check out my Patreon. As far as Spell Table games, people have been playing pretty regularly almost every day. There's been some games firing off, so at least 4 or 5 times a week. So yeah, if you're looking for a good community of people to play with on Spell Table or MTGO, then check out my Patreon, link below.
Who is your favorite MTG artist? It should be Phil Folio. And what is some of your favorite MTG art?
I tend to prefer older MTG art more than new MTG art. In general, older MTG art had less cluttered backgrounds, and that makes the image in the foreground stick out more. A card that I think about is the art on the original Achroma. There's not really much happening in the background there, so it makes Achroma really jump out at you. That's kind of lost on new cards because there's always so much world building going on. You get a greater sense of space, which is cool, but it also does clutter the images a little bit, and especially, you know, when they're that big. Magic cards, the original thumbnails. As far as my favorite artists, I like a lot of the 93, 94 artists. Anson Maddox is one that I always liked, has some like really weird pieces of art. The original Sanger Vampire, for example. Richard Kane Ferguson had some really cool stuff in Legends. Dak and Blackblade and stuff like that. Tom Wanderstrand had some really cool ones. City of Shadows is probably one of my favorite arts in the game, and I'm very sad that I traded a City of Shadows for not very much a while back. I still have one copy, but I wish I held on to that. City of Shadows, up there on my favorite MTG art. Maze of Ith is one that I always liked a lot as well. Yeah, I like a lot of the 93, 94 stuff.
Congrats, man. Loving your channel since day one. I'm wondering if you have any other nerdy hobbies besides MTG. What art type or mechanic would you love to see more of?
Day one was January 4th, 2017. It's been a wild ride since then. Other hobbies that I have beside Magic, I play a lot of softball in like a fairly competitive league. Not all the time, but every once in a while you'll have some like ex-minor leaguers or things floating through, so, you know, I have to keep myself in pretty good shape to keep up with that. I also play guitar, and I've been doing a lot more songwriting recently. You'll see a bass behind me, and there's a guitar case on the other side. So I've been doing a lot of that, and I've started playing with some people, which I haven't done in a number of years, so that's been really exciting. So I'm sure you guys will hear more about that in the future. Archetypes or mechanics that I would like to see more of, I like the combat mechanics, obviously. I'd love to see like more Battle Cry. I think it was just a cool mechanic. More Triple Strike, and I feel like red and white should get 1 or 2 cards each that have the broken Urza mechanic of untapping lands, just because they don't have any currently. If blue gets free spells, white and red should get a couple too.
We all know your love of angels, but do you have a favorite tribe among the lesser known ones? Mine is Viashino's.
Yeah, I definitely love the angel deck big time. I like my allies deck a lot. That deck's been a lot of fun, and it's like much better than you think it is. It's not like insane high power or anything like that, but it's a cool deck, and it definitely does things. I tried to make Phoenix Tribal work once, and that didn't pan out. They need more Phoenixes. I would love to visit like Adriana Knights or something like that now that red and white have card draw. could be kind of cool. But I've played a decent number of tribes on the channel, played elephants one time. What else have I played? Played Archons pretty recently. That was a fun game. So I've had the opportunity to play a lot of those like lesser tribes, and I've messed around with a bunch of that stuff. Played spiders a long time ago. That was a fun one. Oh my God, this never made it to video because the game crashed. Someone played a storm herd, and then they attacked, and then I played Arachnogenesis, making a bajillion spiders, and then I had Kindred Discovery in hand. The game crashed before I got back to my turn, but I was going to Kindred Discovery for every spider in my deck, and it was going to be incredible. I'm so sad that never happened. That was like 3 or 4 years ago, and I still remember it. So that tells you how much I wanted that play to happen.
How did you become a Boros player? Can you describe what fascinated you most about it?
So when I started playing MTGO, I had the trial version for a while, which they just let you play a couple of pre-con decks. Once I bought the full version of MTGO, I needed a couple decks, so I bought the White Time Spiral deck and the 8th edition Red deck, because those were the two that I had been playing, and then I just kind of took those pre-cons and mashed them together. And out of that was born a really mediocre deck that wasn't honestly very good. But I had a friend that was into Magic at the time, and I kind of talked to him about it, and he's like, oh, this is what you should do, and I started changing stuff, and eventually I figured out how to start winning with red and white. So fast forward a couple years to like 2013, 2014, I was playing a lot of 1v1 Commander on Magic Online. Just every deck is blue-black X combo. Everyone was playing basically the most competitive deck they could build. At the time, that was much slower than it is now. Anyway, so I looked through the list of available Boros commanders at the time. I'm like, oh, I should play red-white aggro. That would be a cool thing to do in Commander. And see if I could bring like the red deck wins mentality into Commander. And that's what I was originally trying to do. And eventually I settled on Aurelia as a commander and started tinkering with it. And like, yeah, my early builds of it, not great. Not great at all. But eventually, after enough losing, I figured some things out and figured out how to make it work. So yeah, it was really just a desire to play something different other than blue-black X combo.
Do you think the Commander format needs to be reworked? When it started, it was a place to play cards that no one cared about. Now Magic is Commander. The pure amount of auto-include staples and top-tier cards makes the format less diverse and very different from its beginnings. Do you think it needs a change? Maybe not today, maybe not next year, but soon?
I am starting to think so, actually. It's gotten so fast and so powerful, and I guess like the main thing is like consistency. Everything's so consistent now. It's like even if you blow up all of someone's stuff on turn 5 or 6, they still figure out a way to win like a turn or two later. Back in the day, if someone blew up all of your things, it would take you a while to rebuild, and you would have the time to rebuild, unlike now. The game's probably just going to end on turn 8 anyway. It's just a matter of who gets there because of how consistent decks are. So yeah, I do think we're going to get to a place where Commander is going to get too powerful for its own good, and they will probably have to break it off into other formats. I did read a really interesting article about this. Someone kind of delved into all of the big Eternal formats and figured out that, yeah, after some period of time, most of these Eternal formats run into problems because the card pool gets too big, and things are just too powerful and it pushes out too many other things. And given enough time, I think Commander will get there, especially with the amount of product that they're printing. And as you pointed out, it's not today, it's probably not next year, but I do worry when I think about like 5 years down the road. But yeah, I could probably do a whole video on this topic, and I probably should do that at some point.
What are some of your favorite commanders outside of Boros? Would you ever revisit some old themes, i.e. Sunforger package, etc.?
So over the past couple years, I've really taken a liking to weird 5-color theme decks, aka Gigantha Tap Creature Tribal and Sisay Legendary Blades. I wouldn't say that I love Sisay as a commander because I think it's too powerful, but I find Gigantha to be a lot of fun, and that deck is more about the 99 and less about the commander. But the real answer to this question is you don't get to the number of videos that I've made without wanting to play everything. So basically, whatever commander I'm feeling in that moment. As far as old themes, they haven't been doing so well in the views department, so I was doing a bunch of older commanders for a while, and I've kind of gotten away from it, trying to focus a bit more new stuff. And yeah, I never actually did a Sunforger video, but I should probably just do that and like put it out into the world. It's still a really powerful card. At the time, it was the most powerful thing you could do, and there weren't many other Boros cards that were close. Now, there are a lot of other powerful things to be doing, so I actually don't run Sunforger all that much anymore, just because I know that it subtracts from like the other themes in the deck and also eats up a lot of card slots.
Congratulations on 12K! A new Jurassic World is coming out soon. Can we get the long-awaited sequel to Dinosaur Week?
So I saw the trailer and I immediately started thinking about this, so it might happen. Stay tuned.
Thanks for all the good content you've made over the years. I haven't been able to support you financially, but every time you pop up in my notifications, it makes me happy. How does it feel to be the best Commander content on YouTube?
Oh, if only it were true. If only it were true. Thank you. I really do appreciate it. Again, Patreon link below for those who do want to support. Yeah, I wish it were true. I believe in what I do, but I also recognize what other people do as well and recognize the need to evolve. And in some sense, I do feel like I've outgrown the gameplay videos just a little bit because I now have more like video editing knowledge than what I can really put to use in a gameplay video, and that's why some of the cutaways and stuff came back. I now have skills that I'm not able to utilize because of gameplay videos.
But what I do have are a very particular set of skills.
So I am going to be trying out a bunch of new series and different styles of videos. I've already started some of the educational stuff, and as I mentioned, the EDH with Friends stuff is coming back, plus unnamed project on the side, so be sure to stay tuned for all of that stuff.
Will we ever see you play a Hoffrey deck? Which set has been your favorite from the last year to now?
Yeah, we'll get to Hoffrey eventually. It's been on my radar, just need to find some time to do it. As far as favorite recent set, I really dig Kaldheim. I just think it's a cool set. I listen to a lot of power metal, so thematically, Kaldheim is awesome.
Are you planning on doing more budget EDH videos? I like to build the decks that performed on camera.
Maybe. It's all timing. It just takes longer. I generally try to do them for the new Boros commander that comes out, especially if it's one that's really getting a lot of attention from like non-Boros players. But yeah, I would like to. It's just a matter of having time to do it.
Have you considered a house ban on Mana Crypt for all of your Patreon games? At least the ones that are supposed to be low to mid power.
Yeah, this is a thing that I've thought about a lot, and I haven't pulled the trigger on it, but I have thought about it fairly extensively for probably the past year or two, and we might be getting to that place. Some people like having Mana Crypt because they like having access to the power and all that, but it doesn't make for a great balanced gameplay. Whoever has it early is just going to be really far ahead. How many times have you guys seen me just run away with mana, have like 9 mana on turn 3 or something crazy because of Mana Crypt into another piece of ramp into another piece of ramp? So yeah, it's something that I've been thinking about. I played on Tomer's stream a couple weeks ago, and I really liked the ban list that he had going. I think it was like no Mana Crypt, no Mana Vault, Smothering Tithe, and Rhystic Study. I think were the main ones, and probably a few others, but we'll see. We'll see.
Not so much of a question, but a fun challenge. Build a 5-color mono white deck. How? Use one of the many white legendaries that have a Wooburg color identity. Example, the new Kyude from Kamigawa, and then play only hybrid cards or white cards with bigger color identities, excluding colorless ramp. Could be interesting, no?
So one of my Patreons actually used to run mono white Golos, and it looked cool, right? Because Golos finds Emeria, and your deck is a lot better when Emeria is in play if you're mono white. So having seen that deck in action a number of times, it's a cool idea and I like it, but it just doesn't speak to me that much. So based on my long to-do list, probably won't have time to get to it.
Will you sign an Oskir the Reconstructor for me?
Yes, I will reach out to you about this.
Congrats on the success. Favorite color combo?
Least favorite color combo.
Are there any commanders that you refuse to touch?
For the most part, no. Maybe like Breya, just one that I have no love for. Maelstrom Wanderer, probably not. And it's not that I would say never, it's just that I would need a really good reason to play them.
What are your thoughts on Gruul? Have you ever played Omnath Locus of Rage? When is the revisit of older commanders like Alicia?
I think Gruul gets a lot of hate unnecessarily. It's kind of known as the big stompy color, but you have access to green, which is like probably the most powerful color, and then red is also really good right now. So I think Gruul decks are very good and very underrated because they seem to take a lot of hate. But they have a lot of really good tools at their disposal. Omnath Locus of Rage I'm not a big fan of. I think it's a little too powerful. It was like definitely too powerful when it came out. Still really annoying because once they get a sack outlet, you are in some trouble. So not my favorite. As far as revisiting older commanders, I have done a bunch of that over the past year, and for the most part, those videos just don't do as well. Skitterix was the one that really performed well, and I think almost all of the other ones were below average. So because of that, I do need to keep the focus on newer stuff, but I still do play all the Patreon decks, and they just send me whatever they want. So, you know, if they send me an older commander, I will play an older commander.
Congrats for your channel and for the content. When will you finally represent Boros power at the command zone? We need some Boros representatives.
I would love to go on the command zone. Unfortunately, there's a theme of people that they have on the show, and I don't think I quite fit that theme. They're getting a lot of famous people in there, and I'm just not that famous, so it might be a long wait before that happens. In the meantime, you'll have to look to Rachel Weeks as the lone Boros representative on the command zone, and one of only 2 other people that I trust to build a good Boros deck in Commander.
An EDH and chill with Pleasant Kenobi in the future? Like to see that.
I've reached out to him maybe 2 or 3 times about that, and he's just never had me on, so if it's something you want to see, you can maybe drop him a little comment.
If you could planeswalk to any plane, where would you go and what would you do?
Ixalan. Dinosaurs. Also, I just think Ixalan's a really cool plane. It has a really cool flavor to it. I don't know. I like it a lot.
What is the best Rush album?
This is referencing a cutaway from the How to Build Your Deck Like a Pro video I did last week, and I said the Holy Triumvirate and showed a picture of Rush. I actually don't listen to that much Rush, but I am just a fan of music in general, so I thought it was a fun little cutaway. But if the choices were between like what's on the radio now and Rush, I'm gonna choose Rush every time.
What was your inspiration for your intro?
Today on Commander Replay. I've been talking for too long and I'm losing my voice, I can't really do it now. The intro was a mixture of two main things. Pablo Francisco's comedy bit from like 2004 or something like that. He did the movie trailer guy and it's a hilarious bit. The first time I saw it, I was literally rolling on the floor laughing at my friend's house.
One man, one decision, one desire.
And after seeing that, I kind of just practiced that voice for a long time, driving my friends crazy, and now I drive you guys crazy with it. The other thing that's kind of mixed in there a little bit is Sick Sad World from Daria, the little cutaways that they have. It's a little bit of those two things kind of mashed together, and I don't know, that's what came out, so.
If you could design any card for EDH, what would it be?
Actually, I applied for a design job at Wizards last year. I didn't get it, because if I did, you guys probably would have heard about it. But around that time, I started designing a lot of cards, and I actually have a Word doc on my desk that's just chock full of awesome red and white cards. Interestingly, this was before Kaldheim came out, and one of the cards that I had on there was a mono white Time of Need, and that's essentially what they printed with Search for Glory. I actually had another one on there. It was essentially a commander that when it ETBs, you could search for an enchantment and put it into your hand. And that's sort of what they printed with Light Paws. But in addition to just like brand new designs, there's a few things that I would like to straighten out, and that is Gamble is not an acceptable tutor in red. The fact that there are no red and white cards with the Urza's untapped land mechanic. Enemy BFZ lands. But as far as some new stuff, I really like the Keywords Matter stuff that they're doing in white, so I would probably try to go more in that direction and fool around with more stuff like that.
If you were made into a commander, what would you be able to do? Banding Tribal?
This is actually a surprisingly tough question. My initial thought, though, was like Flying, Vigilance, Haste, Double Combats, Triple Strike. But if I personally were made into a commander, it would have to be one of those talking cards, like Azor's Elocutors or something like that, because I do a lot of talking.
What would be your take on an Iroas God of Victory deck? It's both my first and favorite commander deck, and I'm always interested in seeing how people make what I call pure Boros aggro work.
Iroas is actually a tricky one. I went on an Iroas kick a few years back, and I imported like 5 or 6 different decks that I found from Tapped Out. Played all of them, and like they were all bad. They just weren't good decks. I've played my own Iroas a few times, and I don't like Iroas in the command zone that much. I think he's great in the 99, but I just don't feel like he gives you enough out of the command zone. But if I were going to build it, it would either be like Boros good stuff, all the stuff that you guys see me run with like slightly less equipment. But the other thing that I think could be really interesting is tokens. There have been a lot of good token producers printed over the past few years. Legion Warboss, Goblin Rabblemaster, Loyal Apprentice, in conjunction with everything else that's already there, so I think you could build a pretty cool token deck. And the other thing is, I would load up on all of the instant speed red board wipes, just like all of them. One-sided board wipes win games, so that's what I would be doing.
What do you do for work, and what hobbies do you enjoy outside of Magic?
For work, I'm a software QA at an insurance company, but I'm really trying to figure out how to make the answer to that question YouTuber. Hobbies outside of Magic: softball, guitar, lifting, and songwriting.
Cheers. I wish to see you play Edric Spymaster of Trest. A really spicy Edric. Longtime fan. Keep it going.
It would be fun to play that deck, but as I talked about, my to-do list is really long, and the older videos just don't do as well, which is very frustrating, so.
Who is your favorite Patreon's deck building style?
I don't know that I have a favorite, but I would say that Nate's deck building style is the most different from my own, which forces me to question everything that I think I know about Magic and make sure that what I know is like still applicable. So I'm gonna go with Nate just because it's the most different from my own.
Why is Alibu Artifact Creature Token Aggro the best thing since sliced bread, and why don't you play it more?
Quite simply because it's not on MTGO yet, and I'd have to play it as a paper game, and that's just a lot more work. But I do think Alibu is a really cool card, and I wish it would come to MTGO so that I could play it. And we'll bring it back to the Brilliant Restoration question, because I would definitely make that a reanimator and just load the graveyard up with stuff.
What would your ideal Boros card be? Effect, type, and mana cost.
Team Triple Strike. Honestly, this is a tough question because there's so many things that I would want to make. I'll have to do a video on this. The one that I always kind of come back to that hasn't happened and probably won't ever happen now is essentially Olivia Crimson Bride, but as a Boros commander. And I talked about this like 4 or 5 years ago. And now that it's printed on an Olivia card, it's probably not going to happen. But that's some sort of angel with flying and haste, and when you attack, it reanimates a thing. And like, because Olivia's a face card, I just can't imagine they double that up into other colors. So pretty disappointing to lose that one, because I really wanted that to be a Boros card. But I do have to say, they've printed so many good Boros cards in the past like 3 years. There are about 46 Boros commanders right now, not even including partners. So there's just a lot of great options. They fixed the card draw. They fixed a lot of other issues. There are a lot of really good Boros cards now, to the point where it makes deck building pretty difficult, because you're always looking at like 140 cards that need to go into a 100 card deck. So there's just a lot of cool stuff out there right now.
What's the top 3 cards you hate seeing most in a Commander game?
The ones that beat me. But honestly, a lot of the excessive mana production stuff, Smothering Tide, Dockside, I think Gaia's Cradle, because there just isn't a lot you can do when someone makes too much mana. Once they have the mana, you are in trouble. I probably need to run Silence and Rule of Law more. It's something I've been thinking about a lot. But also, early Mana Crypt and early Soul Ring are really bad, and I do think it's time to take a look at those, because they just lead to unbalanced games. It's the only thing they do. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up here. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. Thank you for watching.